Hello and welcome back to Fallout 3, everybody. Welcome back to the Wasteland, where today we're going to be taking a look at the top 5 best unarmed weapons in Fallout 3. Now you might be asking, how many unarmed weapons are there in Fallout 3? And there's not very many. There's 8 in total, I believe, of all unarmed weapons in the entire game. Not counting your bare hands. Your bare hands, I guess, could count as another one. And unarmed is in kind of a unique spot in Fallout 3 because it is surprisingly strong. If you've never done an unarmed build in this game, I would highly recommend it. It's actually really, really good. The damage and damage per second that you get in the early game and all the way up to the late game is kind of crazy, especially since you can get one of your main staple perks right away at level 4. Iron Fist gets you 5 more points of unarmed damage every time that you get a rank of it, and that's a flat 5 damage. So for even your fists that just have 1 damage, if you get this to all 3 ranks, you're doing 16 damage with your bare hands, which by Fallout 3 standards is actually pretty high, and that's not factoring in any of the unarmed weapons that you can have on this build. So let's go over the top 5. Coming in at our number 5 spot, we have the Steel Knuckles. Steel Knuckles are one of the first rewards that you get from the pit. You do have to collect so many steel ingots for this. I believe this is 20 or 30 of them, and then you're rewarded these. These are just upgraded brass knuckles. They pretty much have the same stats as something like Spike Knuckles, however, their action point cost is really low, meaning that this is probably the best unarmed weapon for getting value out of Paralyzing Palm, which is also another really strong unarmed perk. Unarmed actually has some really good perks, weirdly enough, even though they don't have very many weapons. The Steel Knuckles are very practical, and being able to fix them up with Brass Knuckles is great. Brass Knuckles already have good item HP, same with the Steel Knuckles. This is just a really strong weapon if you want to rush it early on, especially if you want to go to the pit with an unarmed build at like level 1 or so. You're probably gonna beat up everything really fast because you can not only get this here, but you can also get the Deathclaw gauntlet here too, or at least I guess the one and only Deathclaw gauntlet that you can't make. Steel Knuckles are definitely a really good reward for this. You can also do a unique interaction to down enemies or smaller enemies in this. It doesn't pop up as much in Fallout 3 as it does in New Vegas, but it does pop up a lot in the pit with the Trogs. If you go into VATS, there's usually a stomp option, and you can just stomp on them, and that does like 200% more damage from your unarmed. It's kind of crazy. It does a lot of DPS. Coming in at our number 4 spot, we have one of our unique power fists. This is the Shocker. The Shocker is actually a pretty good weapon. This deals extra damage towards robots, and that's why it's here. It's actually just as strong as a regular power fist. It's just that you get an extra bonus on top of this. So if you want to be punching robots, this one's pretty good. There are a couple places around the wasteland where robots are, I wouldn't really say common, but where they tend to spawn, as well as if you want to rush this early on. It's not super difficult to get since you just have to go through the flooded metro. There's not too many enemies down there, and the Shocker is a pretty worthwhile reward. Being able just to have this on your person to pull out and hit things like Sentry Bot certainly helps. Protectrons, it can be kind of useful. Robo Brains, it can be pretty useful, and same thing with Gutsy Bots. And there are certain parts of the game, especially certain quests, where this one can be a bit more useful. Coming in at our number 3 spot, we have Fisto, who would later make an appearance in Fallout New Vegas. This one is the other unique power fist, and this one is just a stronger power fist. This one does even better damage per second. It has better crits. It has good item HP, just like all the power fists do. You do have to get through quite a few ghouls in order to get this. The area is actually kind of scary to go through early on, because usually there's at least a glowing one there, if not multiple glowing ones, depending on the level that you get there. And if you go there much later on, you can run into ghoul reavers, which they are not the easiest thing to kill. Fisto stands out above the other power fists, and it's what you could use as a general purpose weapon if you want something with good item HP and good damage. Coming in at our number 2 spot, this might be a little bit surprising to people, but we're gonna have just Spike Knuckles here. Why are Spike Knuckles up here and not like the unique version of it, or even Brass Knuckles? Well, it's because Spike Knuckles you can get pretty much at the very start of the game, where if you wanted to get the unique Spike Knuckles, you actually need to go out of your way to get a whole different perk. You need to get the Lawbringer perk, and that unlocks a new location where you can get the unique Spike Knuckles. Regular Spike Knuckles you can actually find like right at the very start. Raiders tend to carry them, and it's not even rare for them to be carrying around Spike Knuckles. This one has a ton of advantages for the early game though. It has really good item HP, they don't break very fast. You can fix these up super easily because you can fix them with regular Brass Knuckles too. The damage from them is really good. The damage per second is really good. They only weigh 1 weight. They're probably one of the best early game weapons overall at just kind of everything. Even if you're not going with an unarmed character, they're still just very strong. They become even stronger when you factor in how quickly you can level up Iron Fist, because you could go for level 4, 5, 6 and just have Iron Fist maxed out, have 15 more base damage to them, which they already do good damage, and you're hitting much harder than most other weapons this early on. I think Spike Knuckles is probably the second best early game weapon that you could get without rushing a unique weapon, The only other weapon I could see being stronger than this would be something like the combat shotgun, and we've kind of already went over why those are pretty busted. So Spike Knuckles get the second place. And then coming in our number 1 spot, we have the Deathclaw Gauntlet. This one probably won't be surprising to anybody. This one does the highest amount of damage and highest amount of DPS out of any of the unarmed weapons. It also has a 5x crit modifier, which makes it so if you're going with a crit build, this is the only weapon in the game besides the alien blasters that can guarantee crits on every single hit. You do have to make these, aside from the one that I said you can get in the pit. You can actually get that if you want to rush the pit early. It's not going to be fully repaired, but it's still going to be a very strong weapon if you want a Deathclaw Gauntlet. Aside from that, you're going to need to go get a schematic, and then you're going to need to make these. And one of the ingredients might be kind of hard to get for this, that being the Deathclaw hand, because you're probably going to have to take that off of a Deathclaw. If you manage to get the unique event that has a Deathclaw already in it, that's nearly wounded and it has the schematic nearby, that would be ideal, but there are a couple places you can go and a few tactics you can use to kill Deathclaws pretty early on. Like if you want to go search workbenches, find a bunch of bottle cap mines, usually 1 or 2 of those is enough to cripple a Deathclaw, if not kill a Deathclaw depending on the difficulty you're playing on. Then you can get their hand, take this back to a workbench with all the other things, and then piece it back together, and you've got yourself a very, very strong weapon. Deathclaw Gauntlet kind of sets the standard for what an unarmed or melee weapon should be, at least like an endgame weapon, and this one is very, very good. So that'll do it for the top 5 best unarmed weapons, and that's kind of all the weapons covered in Fallout. I will be doing an overall top 10 best weapons in all of Fallout 3. Hope you found this entertaining. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.